You're watching Gearz, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
You know, one of the things that make the automotive world so unique are all the options that you've got. I mean, there is literally something out there no matter what your taste, style, budget, or preference is. For example, some people want to get an old motorcycle, car, truck, tractor, snowcat, and just get it running, keep the patina, and have fun with it. And that is great. So, you think I can make this thing move? There you go. All right. Then there are those that want to restore something original, keep that original vibe. Then there are those that like to take something and turn it into a street machine or a hot rod or a race car or a full-on show vehicle. And you can do this with anything. I mean, you can do it with a car, a truck, a motorcycle, a Jeep, an import. Heck, you can even do it with a grandma's old sedan. Then, on the flip side of that, you've got those that would love to build a replica. And you've got Auburn Speedsters, you've got Jag D types, you've got Cobras, you've got all kinds of Ferraris. And then, last but not least, are the guys that want to build the exotic supercar. And if you go to any car show or cruise in across the nation, you're probably going to see some of everything we've just talked about, except for the supercar. Because first of all, there's not a lot of them out there, and people don't think they can build them and afford them. So, a while back, we started a buildup on one of the premier mid-engine component cars in the industry, the SLC from Super Lite Cars.
Every boy's dream is to do their own thing, and that's where the SLC came from.
Starting with the all-aluminum semi-monocoque frame, we laid out the chassis and suspension. And after that, we traveled to Detroit, put together our own LS7 crate engine at General Motors. Wind that thing up, man. Roll it up to about 4,000. Then we bolted the engine to a Porsche transaxle. Coming down, and dropped it in the car. The next step was to make it really nasty by stacking on twin turbos with Jeff Schwartz from Schwartz Performance and putting it all together. Then, once we were done with the build, I sold it to a buddy of mine who took it racing. And it is easy to see why, because the SLC's ability on a racetrack is well documented. Take a look.
We don't get the same kind of pushback that we used to get because people see them on the street, they see them on the racetrack, they win races. The whole, it's a great looking car, but how good is it really? Yeah. National championships and lap records, that's how good it is. Well, who did you beat? We have #1 on the hood because we beat everybody.
Massive rubber keeps the car firmly planted to the ground, and the suspension is extremely nimble, so it can handle difficult tracks and road courses with no problem.
It takes that load and it spreads it over a bigger area, and it's actually safer and stronger than doing a tube design.
As far as power, anytime you put a hot V8 in a 2,000-pound mid-engine car, you get massive acceleration when you need it.
We put this chassis, the SLC chassis, on the Australian test rig. This is a government-certified test rig. The chassis was so strong that we pulled the anchors out of the floor of the building. And I think that's the first time that's happened.
And of course, Brembo brakes bring everything to a stop very quickly when you need that too, making this a lethal combination on a racetrack. The body doesn't just look cool with its massive wing, it's actually designed with aerodynamics and downforce factored in, so the car slips through the air like a knife, giving it tremendous speed potential.
We race a car that has the same chassis as our street car, the same body as our street car, all the same suspension pickup points as our street car, and we dominated.
But as good as the SLC is on the racetrack, the question is, can it also be a great street car? And what would it take to finish one out like that? Well, the best way to answer that question is to show you a couple of SLCs that the owners built to roam the streets, hunt down Ferraris and Lamborghinis, and blow people's minds. Siri, shut the door. Hey, welcome back to Gearz, where we are taking a look at the SLC component car from Super Lite Cars. Now, this is a supercar that you can build in your own garage, just like both of these cars were built. Now, we've already shown you how wicked this car can be on a racetrack. Now we're going to take a look how well it does on the street. The first car was built in the garage of Will Campbell, and the goal for his car was to build it as a dual-purpose vehicle for both the street and the racetrack. So it has the massive wing in the rear, the race splitter in front, which gives it a definite race car presence. The body was assembled in stock configuration, with all the panels being well gapped and adjusted, and the body blocked down to give a good foundation for the blue paint. The drivetrain of choice was a healthy LS7 crate engine that has plenty of power and the right sound for both the street and the track.
What I really loved about this car was I loved the engineering of it. I like the aluminum monocoque chassis. I love the billet suspension. I even like the body design. And I also like Superlite. I really felt like they were a company that would be reliable, would be a trustworthy partner to build, because I knew that it was going to be a big deal for, for me to actually build a car, since I hadn't done it before.
The interior is where this car really shines, with a ton of high-tech details like leather upholstery and a custom console with pockets for umbrellas and cell phones and things like that. It's also loaded with all kinds of electronic additions like power doors, LED lights, a push-button start, and the best part is they're all controlled with a touchpad, making this super high-tech.
And that runs navigation, music, internet, all the usual tablet things. So I can control volume from the wheel, and I can control source. So I can go from the tablet to, the internal radio to USB to whatever I want to do.
The other car was built by Bill Phillips, and he wanted to go a step further with his SLC and build a full-on street car that would rival the nicest Ferrari or Lamborghini.
Basically taking all the pieces of the Ferraris, the Paganis, all the different exotic cars that are out there, and taking the parts I like and kind of molding it together in a kind of cohesive design that, it's your dream car, right?
Yeah. For power, Bill picked up an LS3 from a wrecked Corvette, bolted it to the Porsche transaxle, so it has plenty of power if you want to mix it up with somebody. Now, since the goal for this project was to put together a super slinky street car, Bill chose to build his car with the low-profile street tail and then treated the body to a bunch of subtle modifications and tweaks to make it one of a kind. To make sure the car was capable of being driven on long trips, there needed to be some storage space. So the front was modified to tilt forward, and a small trunk was fashioned to hold cargo.
To start off with that, I was thinking, oh, that's not that hard, big a deal. It turned out changing an awful lot in the car.
Oh, yeah. This meant relocating the radiator to the rear vents.
Everything that was in there had to go someplace else in the car. So it meant re-engineering the cooling system, really doing a lot of testing, airflow testing to make that work, so it's not getting as much ram air there. and to get the cooling right, which is kind of always an issue on pretty much any mid-engine car. That's one of the thresholds.
The blistering yellow paint was painstakingly applied by Anthony and his crew at Charlotte Speed Shop to bring this thing up to show quality standards that a car like this demands.
First rolled in the shop, I had no idea what it was. I was like, what is that? It is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And Bill explained it was the component car from RCR, and I was really, really impressed, and just out of the box how well they fit. Just the chassis engineering, it wasn't your basic, let's get a tube chassis and throw some fiberglass on it. I mean, this was a race car, is really what it is. It's cool.
And just like with Will Campbell's blue car, Bill also spent a lot of time on the interior, loading it up with custom leather panels and upholstery, as well as gauges and controls and that all-important backup camera, which adds an air of luxury like you'd expect in a high-end supercar. Hey, you're watching Gearz and our look at the SLC, a do-it-yourself supercar for the street or track. Now, obviously, there's a difference in the time and money it takes to build one of these for the track, like we did, or to build one as a full-on street machine. But it's nice to know you got a car that can go either way, or both ways, if that's the way you want to build it. Now, with all that being said, just how good is one of these things on the street? Well, let's find out. The first question that everybody asks is just how much room is there in the SLC? Because as you can see, the roof is only about 43 inches off the ground, so it looks like it's going to be tight. So, getting in the SLC is almost a controlled fall. Just kind of angle yourself in and drop down into the seat. Now, as you can see, the SLC is built for somebody that's 6'4". So at 6'1", I've got a lot of room. I don't have a lot of extra room, but I have enough. Now, when you go to shut the doors, you can see they come down with a nice thud, just like an OEM car, and you've got a nice rubber seal all the way around it, so you're going to get very little wind or road noise when you're going down the road. However, it's not so quiet if you're following behind it. On the road, the car sits low and it's a tad rough, all the results of its racing DNA. However, the front lift kit will help you negotiate speed bumps or curbs, and avoiding potholes will smooth things out considerably. The interior is comfortable with a surprising amount of headroom and legroom, and visibility is great out the front. Out back, the rear side mirrors are adequate, but there is a big blind spot directly behind you. That's why putting in a rear camera is a must. As far as performance, the SLC is exactly what you expect. Extremely stable and flat in the corners, with the ability to smoke the tires pretty much whenever you feel like it. And now we come to the final and most important test of the SLC. How cool is it? Does it have sex appeal? Does it grab people's attention like a supercar should when you take it out on the road or to a car show? Well, check it out. It doesn't just grab attention, it completely steals it.
Superlite. Superlite.
As people try to figure out what it is and what planet it came from, which is one of the main reasons a person wants a supercar in the first place. The best thing about an SLC, though, is even though it looks cool and drives nice and has tremendous sex appeal, underneath, there still beats the heart and soul of a race car. And that's nice to know, just in case you ever need it.
Now, quick tip. Brought to you by E3 Spark Plugs. Born to burn.
When you're working on a project, whether it be a restoration or a custom deal, invariably you're going to end up with a bunch of brackets and hardware that need to be cleaned up and painted. And since this isn't near as fun as building an engine or suspension, most people just hack through this and try to get done with it. That can be a big mistake, because the amount of time you spend on these brackets will directly affect how nice your project looks when it's done. For example, look how sharp and unfinished these edges are, and the welds. I mean, these look really bad. Not only that, but if you catch them just wrong, you're going to take a hunk of meat off of yourself. So, what's the solution? Simple. Just take a few minutes with each part and clean them up by grinding the edges and the welds. That will make a big difference in the finished look of the part. Now, look at this. You can see what a difference it made just rounding the edges and cleaning everything up. I mean, this part looks finished and professional. This part looks amateurish and hacked together. And this is going to look even better once it's painted or powder coated. The best part is, you don't need a lot of fancy tools to do this. A belt sander is nice, but a hand sander works just as well. Heck, you can even do this with files, which just goes to show you sometimes the simplest, easiest things make the biggest difference. If you'd like to learn more tips to make your life easier in the shop, check out the tips page on the website.
And now, Parts Bin.
Everybody knows how important a battery is to the operation of your vehicle. Especially with today's high-tech electronics and fuel injection, everybody wants a lot of power in a little package. And that's been a problem until these Turbo Start batteries came out. Now, these were born and tested on racetracks, and they can be mounted in any configuration, sideways, upside down. They're not going to leak. They don't need any kind of vents, and the AGM design gives you more capacity and more cranking amps for a longer period of time than any conventional battery out there. As you can see, they're available in different sizes, different cranking amps, so you can actually fit them right to your vehicle. Now, Turbo Start also has their own battery chargers, and they'll work on these batteries or pretty much any other battery, and they have accessory kits to help you wire things up. So if you're tired of a battery that doesn't have enough cranking amps or enough capacity, or it's just too big, you need to check out a Turbo Start, because when it comes to batteries, size matters. If you've ever restored a muscle car, you know that they're pretty lacking in the side mirror department. The passenger side, there was usually nothing. On the driver's side, pretty ugly, except for those late 60s Hearst Olds and some of those Mercury Cougars. Now, those had those cool bullet mirrors, but who can find those, right? Well, you can. Check it out. Fusick Automotive Products makes a fantastic replica of those large bullet mirrors that were so famous on the '69 Hearst Olds cars. Now, as you can see, they come in pairs. They have a universal mounting bracket, so they'll work on either the left or the right-hand side of the car. They have a metal body, and they have a large adjustable 4.5-inch face. Now, the size of this mirror makes it a little big to be on a sports car, but perfect for a muscle car. So if you're finishing up a pro touring car, you want that magic mirror, well, a little bit of Hearst Olds or Mercury Cougar mojo may be exactly what you need. Everybody knows the benefits of carbon fiber when you need a part that's lightweight and extremely strong. That's why APR Performance uses carbon fiber in a whole number of vents, scoops, wings, other accessories for late model muscle cars. But they also have a whole line of custom parts for those that might be building something crazy like a Cheetah. Now, as you can see, these not only look really good, but they're fully functional. As you see, they'll let cold air in, they'll let hot air out, they'll do a whole number of things depending on how you configure them. So, if you're building a unique vehicle and you haven't been able to find that special scoop or vent that you want, you've probably been looking in the wrong place. APR Performance is where you need to go.
What are you working on? Brought to you by Woodward Fabrication, selling quality metalworking equipment since 1966.
Today's What Are You Working On comes from Tom Ritchie from Peabody, Massachusetts, and he is a big Mopar fan. And he said that he had to sell his '73 Challenger to buy his wife's engagement ring. Yeah, that was money well spent there, Tom, unless you want to wear a hatchet in your head the rest of your life. But Tom had a little bit of a plan here, because once they had a son, he decided that the best way to teach his son about cars was to build a car together, and he managed to talk his wife into this. So he went out, spent $600, and drug home this. This is a 1970 Dodge Dart Swinger, and for 600 bucks, it was basically just a shell. Tom said he didn't care, so he dove right into the mechanical work. So first, in went a 360 Magnum with a Holly carb, long tube headers, and then they backed it up with an automatic transmission, all of which was found at swap meets or on the internet. That's cool. Now, the paint color was chosen by his 6-year-old son, and after the body work was done, Tom shot on the paint in the driveway in a makeshift paint booth. And as you can see, it came out really well. Now, obviously, the car is not completely finished yet. It's still a work in progress, but sometimes that's the best kind, because Tom says not only does it look good, but he drives it almost every day to work, 30 miles, and his son loves it. And that is money well spent. So well spent, actually, that he's trying to work a similar deal with their second son. Tom, you're going to need some help with that one with your wife. So we've decided to hook up with our buddies at Woodward Fab. We're going to give you a new bench vise to help you when you're working on your project. We're also going to give you one of our project planning books so you can keep track of everything that you've done on those projects. Also, we're going to give you a Sergeant Rock package, the shirt and the die cast. And finally, we're going to give you an O'Reilly gift card to help offset some of the costs of that project. All right, for the rest of you out there, if you have a cool project that you'd like to have featured on the show, you got to go to our website, go to Gearz Nation, and submit it into what you're working on. Now, the website's also the place to find out more information on any products you saw on the show, any Gearz merchandise, and how to join Gearz Nation so you can stream any of our episodes commercial-free. Finally, don't forget to like us on Facebook so you can get some behind-the-scenes footage of our weekly web series, Shifting Gears. All right, that takes care of it for us today. We got a lot of stuff to do here. I know you've got something to work on, so now it's time for you to get out there and bust some knuckles. We'll see you next time.